your host Adnan with you with another exciting personality with us today. And today we're honored and excited to have with us Ike Ikokwu, all the way from United States, Georgia. He is CPA certified mentor, coach. He's providing services like coaching, public speaking, executive coaching, leadership development. He's nationally recognized money expert, international speaker, best-selling author, mentor, coach, and successful entrepreneur. His book, Winning the Money Game, is on top of the chart, and we will see how we can change our mindset about money and how to be succeed in life. Welcome, Ike, to our show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Adnan, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you, humbled by the request to be interviewed. So again, thank you very much.
I'm so excited and I'm so honored to have you. It's a pleasure to have you with us. So, Ike, tell us about the situation in the United States. How is it in terms of COVID-19? And I believe people are on the streets for protests as well.
It's a very, very tenuous situation in the United States. I mean, most people have been cooped up in their homes for about 2 months plus, and quite frankly, it's revealed a lot about just what I call issues underneath the hood of the car that you've not been paying attention to. So it may have shown up in just your lack of communication skills with your spouse, with your kids. It may have shown up in the ways in which maybe you've created an idol out of the work that you do. And now that maybe you're not able to do that work, you find yourself in a space and a place where you're having to reassess who you really are and what brings meaning to your life, right? But regardless of how it's shown up, it's created a very, very tenuous situation where people are on the edge. You take into consideration the economic impact that's had with, what is it now, 40 million people, I think, that are unemployed, right? Just, numbers and numbers of businesses that are shutting down, closing their doors, looking to the government to provide some form of relief, some of them getting access to that relief, others being denied access. It's been crazy just thinking about the government programs that were provided, where you heard about companies like the Los Angeles Lakers or the Golden State Warriors or just big, Fortune 500 companies getting access to these PPP loans, when the heart and soul of our economy, the small business owner, is being denied at their local banks. And so it's been a bit of an outrage, I think, for a lot of small business owners who, quite frankly, are responsible for the lion's share of economic output when it comes to jobs and just productivity and things that really keep our economy afloat. So there's a lot of rage. There's a lot of people that are upset, that are angered by the circumstances that they find themselves in. And then when you look at the African-American population and you look at years and years of injustice, and, in the year 2020, we continue to see instances of where, we may, claim to have equal rights with every other race, but there are repeated examples of where people are being, quite frankly, abused. And so it's a rather peculiar time in the United States, but at the same time, it's a rather incredible time. There are pockets of companies and people that are experiencing unprecedented growth. And I'm really excited because I know, just studying our history, it's in times like this where great wealth is created. It's in times like this that the innovative spirit of human beings comes to life. And so I believe that 12 to 18 months from now, there are going to be people who have taken incredible advantage of the opportunities that are presenting themselves. And this is probably a time in history that I think grandkids and great-grandkids will go, man, your grandparent was alive in the year 2020? I remember reading about that year. So it's a very fascinating time for sure.
Great. And then you mentioned something about, the discrimination that's going on in the society for maybe like thousands of years, but still the mindset is still the same, especially in case of, George Floyd's case, where it has become a symbol of the people to come out in the street and show their solidarity and show that, yes, the human race is equal. There's no racial color. There's no difference between colors. So there's a lot to change in terms of the mindset of certain people. What do you say?
It is unfortunate. But after years and years of seemingly trying to make progress, that we get reminded in the course of months. I mean, you've seen the listing of just inappropriate things that have happened to the African American race over the past few months, right? And what seeming progress that we thought we had made could be in one fell swoop completely eliminated. And it's just a reminder of where we are as a nation, as a group of people, and really a call to action for all of us to really look at the varying ways in which we hold, various forms of discrimination against our fellow brother and sister. Doesn't matter if they're Black, doesn't matter if they're white, doesn't matter if they're Hispanic, doesn't matter if they're Asian. We all bleed red. And this is really a call to make sure that the human race really starts embracing every facet of what that represents, right? Regardless of place of origin, regardless of economic status, regardless of the color of your skin, it's, do you see the inherent value in each and every human being? Are you open enough to embrace that? Are you willing to be a student if, because of upbringing, things that may be passed on through the generation, you've preclude yourself from learning about your fellow neighbor? It's really a call to really embrace the diversity that is the human race. And the African American culture tends to be front and center right now, but I hope after we emerge out of all the things that we need to do to try to heal what's taking place within the African American race, that we look at all races and we embrace the human race as being one that is beautiful, that is diverse, and that's worthy of us really fully embracing and learning from.
That's indeed, that's true, because all humans are equal. Under your skin, your blood color is same, your skeleton is same. It's all about your character. I mean, it's all about your attitude that needs to be different. And I wish that people should learn this, at least in this 21st century that you're talking about. So tell us about yourself. Something. Where did your childhood? Where you spent your childhood? Something about your which is not there on your website, which people might want to know about you.
Yeah, so my humble beginnings go back to Lagos, Nigeria. So I know you're in UAB, and obviously from just a cultural perspective, we could draw some similarities, being outside of maybe a US-based culture. But we gained our independence in 1960. We were colonized by the British. I come from a heritage within my family that has education at the core of our value system. And so I have siblings and cousins and a lot of family members that have gotten advanced degrees, graduated from, some of the top colleges in the United States, and gone on to be engineers, doctors, lawyers, etc., the whole nine. My dad still has his law practice still today, but has been a businessman most of his life. My mom passed away in 2013, but she was an accountant. And so I've had some really, really good core influences over the course of time. I came to this country in 1988 because my father was getting an import-export business kicked off the ground, and his business partners were based in Columbus, Georgia. And since him and my mom both wanted us to go to Europe or the United States for formal education, it just became an opportunity to kind of kill two birds with one stone. So my mom and us three kids came to the United States and stayed in about a 450 square foot apartment, and started a life here in the United States of trying to get a better education. And I, walked really, really hard and, threw a paper route with my mom at 3 a.m. in the morning before going to a private Catholic school at 6, 7 a.m. in the morning. Would be there at school for 8 hours and get off at 3, and I'd go wash cars at a local Google car wash and get back home at 7 in the evening, get all my homework assignments done, grab dinner, rinse and repeat, and go through that again. Did all of that, managed to graduate top of my class in high school, and then moved on to college where I got a degree in accounting, and eventually just kind of made my way through corporate America, learning what I needed to there, and ultimately starting my own company, and not looking back since that happened in middle of 2002.
Wow, what an amazing journey yet you have, starting from scratch and washing cars and graduating and then starting something of your own. What are the challenges that you faced? How was the journey? Is it something that was a very smooth journey? Was it like you got success all the way, or you faced any failures, adversities, and if you faced, how you could overcome?
Yeah, I don't know much about the other guests you've had on your show, but I probably have the distinct pleasure and an unfortunate pleasure of probably being one of your guests that has twice made seven figures and twice lost seven figures.
Wow.
One of those disclaimers or warnings that I have to issue: don't try that at home, kids. It's very painful.
Oh my God.
Uh, so I have give you a little bit about my background. So growing up in my country, during the Christmas holidays, one of our traditions was we would go back to my grandfather's village. And my grandfather was like a 19th century Warren Buffett. He owned petroleum companies, he owned land, he owned property, he owned multiple business. The guy was a genius. And so we'd go back to his property in the village, and he had probably a living room that was probably 3,500 square feet in size. And during the Christmas holidays, all the kids would kind of parade around the extended family, uncles, aunts, everybody's there. And we do a show and tell as to how well we did in school for the year. And based on our scholastic aptitude and how well we did, we would get rewarded with money, sometimes gifts, but mostly money. And so at the age of 8, youngest of 3 kids, while my older siblings would take their money and go buy toys or buy clothes, I took all my quote unquote earnings from being good and doing well in school, and I took my dad's old briefcase and created a makeshift bank out of that briefcase.
Wow.
So at the age of 8, I'd figured out how to save my money. What I did figure out, Adnan, was how to stop the robbers from breaking into my bank and stealing my money. Older brother and older sister.
Okay.
So I share that story with you just to kind of set the background to know that, me ending up in accounting with a bachelor's degree and, getting a master's degree in personal financial planning, working for 2 of what used to be the top 6 accounting firms in the world, learning a lot from there, and eventually, becoming an investment advisor, and then having these runs, very volatile runs of making a lot of money, losing a lot of money, I think has just been a part of my journey and part of my destiny since I was a little kid. So.
Right, right. And you said that you've been robbed uh, 2 times. Like you made 7 figures and then you collapsed, and then again
Yeah.
you re-gathered yourself. What was
Yeah.
that? How it happened?
Yeah. So the first time that happened, so during my stint at KPMG and Ernst& Young, 2 big public accounting firms, I worked in their personal financial planning divisions, and so we do a lot of very comprehensive tax and financial planning for high net worth individuals. And so I learned a lot of really, really cool strategies that they were deploying to their clients. In my 20s, as an example, I had, and I'll have to use language that's very precise here, but I had control of corporations, the international business corporations in Panama. I had control of trusts, offshore trusts in Belize. I had control of banking accounts in Latvia. I got exposure to a lot of international opportunities that a 22, 23, 24-year-old had no business having access to. And as a result, I was able to accumulate a lot of money in my early ages. And so in my 20s, while working and again, learning a lot of what I was learning, doing some incredible work for high net worth individuals, I was trying to mimic a lot of that in my personal life as well. And so I had my first run at making a lot of money in my 20s, and then 9/11 hit. And we know the impact that 9/11 had globally, yet alone just in the United States. And so lost a lot of wealth through both my offshore and my domestic investments. I had a real estate portfolio of almost a dozen properties that went south on me during that same time, because for the first time ever in my life, Adnan, I was unemployed. I found myself unemployed. And unlike most stints in unemployment, which may last 1 or 2 or 3 months and you're back reemployed, I was unemployed for 18 months. That's a long time.
It's a long time.
That's a very long time. now I know why that happened. I tell people all the time, if you read any of my content on LinkedIn, you know that I'm always talking about purpose-driven entrepreneurs, working with purpose-driven entrepreneurs. I believe life really only starts on the other side of you figuring out what your purpose was or what your purpose is. And so my purpose in life was not tied to me being an employee for somebody else. My purpose and my destiny was tied in me being an entrepreneur. And as a believer, I believe and I know that God intentionally shut every door to me ever being reemployed to drive home the point that your time has expired in corporate America. And if I have to shut every door in employment and make it so difficult that even if you try to pay somebody to hire you, they would say no, I think you'll eventually get the point.
Failures are opportunities to learn, and failures, like when one door closes, another opens, and that door might have lots of rewards and opportunities for you. In that case, we can see in your life as well that the corporate world door has closed shut on you, but it has forced you to start something of your own.
Absolutely, it's opened up some incredible doors. I used to hear from mentors and coaches all the time that, did you know you could turn your annual income into a monthly income? And of course, that sounded very, very appealing. But I was like, yeah, that, being a coach or a mentor, that sounds like good marketing, right? To get somebody into your program.
Yeah.
I kid you not, Adnan. I think at the height of my employment, I might have been making $60,000, maybe $70,000 a year, somewhere thereabouts. And it wasn't until I became self-employed that I earned six figures for the first time in my life. It wasn't until I became an entrepreneur that I looked back and I saw that what was the height of my earnings as an employee was the equivalent of what I was generating on a monthly basis. That would never have occurred had I not stepped into what my purpose was. And so even after having to file bankruptcy right around 9/11, because I was unemployed, I had no income coming in, my real estate portfolio tanked, a lot of my wealth tanked, we had to start over. And we did in 2003, started my business in 2002. By 2008, I was back to a seven-figure net worth with six figures in passive income. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, had I not stepped into at least the first chapter of what my purpose looked like, which involved being an entrepreneur, that probably would never have happened.
So what you've done as an entrepreneur that brought you to the seven-figure income?
Well, I think it's really what everybody needs to do, which is to gain clarity on what their purpose is. So this, like I said, I hit that pinnacle in 2008. And I knew that the journey that I took to get there was sort of like Robert Frost's The Road Less Traveled, right? To have accumulated that much wealth and had such an incredible comeback in just 5 years was rather uncanny. And I knew that I did the exact opposite of what a lot of the financial services industry was telling people to do as it relates to managing their finances. And so I wrote a book about that in 2012 called Winning the Money Game, separating the myths from the truth, everything you don't know about achieving financial independence. Because at 34 in 2008, I was where I was hoping to get my clients to by 65, 30 plus years ahead of the ball game, right? And so I wrote that book, released it, it became an Amazon bestseller, got a lot of really good PR out of that. That's when the Huffington Post actually asked that I blog for them. So I blogged for their personal finance division. I got on Fox and a bunch of TV. So it was like just an incredible chapter in my life, pretty much close to, if not at the top of my game. This is 2012. Well, 2014 rolls around. Remember I told you I've had 2 bouts of making and losing a lot of money? So here's where the second one shows up. In 2014, I would suffer 2 devastating business betrayals that wiped out my financial resources to the tune of 7 figures plus, and basically dropped my income to about 1/3 of what it used to be. Pretty difficult time, to say the least. To make matters worse, one of those 2 business betrayals was sort of your classic Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme. Everybody is really familiar with that name, right? In our case, being an investment advisor, the Bernie who perpetrated the fraud that both myself and my clients were victims to actually fled the country. So he was nowhere to be found. We think he's in Switzerland. And so what I would then find out 2 years after the devastation in 2016 was that the SEC had decided that they were not going to expend any resources to try to track this guy down or to try to bring him to justice. Instead, they decided to turn their attention to me and to hold me responsible as an investment advisor for not only my loss, but for my clients' losses.
Wow. Terrible,
talk about what's the saying? Adding salt to injury or something along those lines that we say, right? To just talk about how things get really, really bad. So that kicked off about a 2-year legal battle in 2016 with me essentially, as I like to put it, trying to get the SEC to respectfully reconsider their opinion about whether or not they felt like I was liable for this, right? And so being a man of faith, I prayed through this entire season of my life, just wanting to figure out what the Lord had to say about this, because clearly I felt like I was being victimized yet again. And as clear as the sun comes up in the morning, what I felt the Lord was telling me to do was to go for this, that I would experience a victory, that I would avenge the injustice that I was seeing. And so I got pretty good representation. I thought spent 6 figures plus in legal fees pursuing this idea of victory, recognizing that this was about as good as a 21st century version of David versus Goliath as anybody could have dreamed up. Because here's a little video of Ike in Atlanta, Georgia, who's nobody on the screen, right? Going up against the SEC, a frigging behemoth in the industry, right? Well-known governmental entity. And so I'm going after them, trying to, salvage my name and reputation and prove innocence. And here's how victory ends up showing in my life, Adnan. So it's 2018. By the end of 2018, as I'm looking at the annals, looking at the yearbook of my life, here's what I see. In that year, I agreed to settle my case with the SEC on a neither admit nor deny basis, which was good. No admission of guilt, no denial of guilt, either. Typical settlement case, right? But as part of that settlement, separate and apart from the 6 figures that I paid my legal attorneys to get me to that point, running out of time, running out of money, I had to pay out over $320,000 just to settle the case. I agreed to have my investment advisory license suspended with the right to reapply in 5 years. Whenever something like that happens, it triggers a disclosure to any other body where you have a license. So I had to do that for my CPA license. I had to do it for my insurance license. I had to do it for my CFP license. My CFP license went down the same track as my investment advisory license. I got to keep my CPA and I got to keep my insurance license. But now, because of the settlement on my record, what I found was that getting errors and omissions insurance was darn near impossible. Every carrier out there was like, yeah, I don't think we want to provide you with errors and omissions insurance. A lot of the insurance companies that I represented, where I was one of their star producers, were like, yeah, you've been good to us in past years, but I don't think we want you representing us anymore. So I had these licenses, but for all practical purposes, I couldn't really do anything with them. And my investment advisory business, where like 100%, virtually all my income was coming from, that just got buried 6 feet under. So here I am at the end of 2018, after hearing a word that, hey, go forth, you're going to experience victory with this case, being in a position where I have no assets, my income is down to below poverty level, my reputation is damaged, my bank account is basically zeroed out, and I don't really have a way to kind of provide income for my family because the licenses I have, I can't really do anything with, and the one that was generating all my income is basically gone. But yeah, I'm supposed to be experiencing victory, right? That's the whole reason why we went into this experiment in the first place, right? Well, here's how victory showed up. Victory showed up in the fact that, one, I experienced the biggest internal victory ever. What I was looking for was an external victory, to prove some injustice that the SEC was heaping on me, to keep my book of business, all that stuff. But as devastating as those losses were, bar none, the most devastating loss was the loss of my identity, Adnan. Because absent of all of those external things, professional licenses, the amount of money in the bank account, reputation, all my accomplishments, those were the only reasons why I felt good about looking at the guy in the mirror. And so there was this huge, huge distinction that needed to become evident in my life, which was separating my human doing from my human being. Understanding that I have infinite value to the world simply as a child of the creator of the universe, absent of anything that I might do in the universe. The second area of victory showed up was my wife and I have been married 23 years this year. And for once in our marriage, I was actually loving my wife the way she'd been yearning to be loved all of our marriage. Huge victory there. I have 3 beautiful kids. My oldest is 13. I have a girl, a boy, and a girl, 13, 10, and 5. You know, you can be on a vacation with your children and be present in Aruba, whatever the exotic location, but not be present because your mind is wandering and you're thinking about work. Maybe you're sneaking away to go do things. And so for once in my adult life as a parent, I was actually being present in the lives of my kids. Huge, huge areas of victory. And out of all this pain and suffering and devastation and years that I haven't even spoken about of just investing in myself, investing in mentors and investing in coaches, I built this incredible coaching and consulting practice where after losing it all, like within the last 6 months of 2019, I got to a place where my business was averaging the monthly equivalent of a 6-figure income. And I got there without building this huge online funnel, without selling people a bunch of online courses, without paying for advertising, without doing any of this stuff, having my own podcast show, without doing any of this stuff that a lot of the marketing gurus were doing. And as part of that coaching and consulting process and methodology that I now offer, I focus on, there's really 3 phases to my coaching program. I call it the 3 phases of success. In phase 1, we focus on creating what I call a limitless mindset for clients. It's called Limitless Mindset Mastery. And before you can ever be, do, or have any and everything that you've been destined to do, you've got to be able to break these invisible boundaries that continue to push you down and hold you back from releasing the greatness that is within you. And so before clients do anything else with me, they have to go through phase 1. Once they've conquered phase 1, and they have this incredible mindset around both failure and success, because like a pendulum, it swings both ways, and it can cut you and it can kill you if you don't know how to deal with it, right? Then we focus on phase 2, which is client attraction mastery. This is teaching them how to give voice to the unique value proposition that you bring to the world, the transformation that you create, not with everybody, but with those that you're called to serve.
So when you assess the clients and they have this terminology that you call as invisible boundaries, what are the major reasons for those invisible boundaries, and what are the steps that you take to get them out of those invisible boundaries, break those barriers, break those chains?
Yeah, so a lot of it has to do with culture. A lot of it has to do with behavior. A lot of it has to do with a lot of BS, really, right? And by BS, I mean their belief system. Their belief system is really, really jacked up. I know from just personal experience that our beliefs drive our emotions and our feelings. Our emotions and our feelings impact our behaviors, our actions, our attitudes, the habits we create, which all those things combined generate the results that we experience in life. And so until you have the right BS sitting at the foundation of who you are, you will continue through a repeated cycle of creating the exact same results that you've been creating up until you're 45, 50, 55, whatever age that you are. And so one of my sayings is, 1, if you create some radical beliefs for your life and you pursue relentlessly the goals, the objectives that flow out of that new belief system, you will achieve remarkably. results that even would astound the Guinness Book of Records. It all ties back to our belief system. So I'll give you an example. Most people, before they'd ever launch out to do anything new, we have this false sense of, well, I don't know how to do that. I've never built the Eiffel Tower before. A light bulb, I've never created a light bulb. And the fact that we don't know how to do something somehow creates this false sense that because we don't know how to do it means that we can't do it. All you got to do is look at Thomas Edison's life to realize that, one, that dude had no frigging idea of how to create a light bulb. But he had purpose. He had passion. He understood what he was supposed to do, the kind of transformation he was supposed to bring into this earth. And he radically pursued that, so much so that even when a reporter would go, hey, Thomas, you must feel really, really jacked up about the fact that it took you over 10,000 tries to figure out how to launch this light bulb. He looked at that reporter and go, dude, you must be nuts. I didn't fail 10,000 times. I just figured out 10,000 ways how not to do something.
It's mental attitude, yeah?
It's all about your mindset, right? So I have 10 different invisible boundaries that I put people through, right? That helps them understand that just because you don't know how to do something doesn't mean that you can't figure it out. What's her name? She's got this little slogan. She's got a new book out now called Everything's Figure-outable. I'm drawing a blank on her name, but she's a big influencer. But yeah, you can figure it out, right? The boundary of feeling like you need to know something is just an invisible boundary we place in ourselves. The boundary of failure, right? Everybody looks at failure as such a negative source of emotion and just an indictment that you're not going to do whatever it is you set out to do, when failure should be like an affirmation that you're on the right path, that you're actually getting one step closer to figuring out how to do it. We look at our history, the fact that, dude, if you knew how I grew up, if you knew what I saw, if you knew what side of the tracks I grew up, you would know why being successful is out of the cards for me. And you take two different people who grew up with an alcoholic father who beat them, really amounted to nothing, and you got two brothers living in that same household. One of them grows up to be a phenomenal success, never touches a bottle of liquor all of his life. The other one grows up to be an alcoholic just like his dad. And they interview both of those kids and they go, hey, how did your life turn out this way? The kid who grew up to be an alcoholic goes, look at my past. What did you expect was going to happen? The other kid goes, look at my past. How else did you think I was going to turn out given what I'd experienced in my past? Right?
Yeah.
That's the difference between those two kids. What's between the ears?
Absolutely.
It's all about the belief system that they have, right?
And I was going through on your website and it says that study successful people and you will find that 80% of their success is attributed to their mindset, their inner game, and 20% is attributable to tactics and strategies in their outer game. So first you look at their inner game as part of a 7-step roadmap process. So tell us in brief, what is that roadmap process is, that inner game?
Yeah, it's just a sequence of steps that I put clients through to help them really understand what's driving their behaviors and their actions, right? You got to recognize the patterns of behavior that are leading you to the results that you're experiencing. Once you recognize what those patterns, what those belief systems are, you got to own them, right? You can't point fingers to mom and dad and go, well, it's because my dad was an alcoholic. It's because my mom wasn't around. No. What are you doing with the opportunities that are before you today? So you got to own something before you can make any amends or make any changes and start authoring a new life that you want to create for yourself. And so there's a sequence of steps that I take them through that really just builds this incredible awareness of not only where they've been, where they are right now, but more importantly, where they could be, and puts them in the driver's seat to do what I call living life by design and not by default. By default would be, Dad was an alcoholic. What did you expect. Design would be, Dad was about alcoholic, but I'm about to break and set some new records for my family, right? Because I'm designing the life that I'm going to live into.
That's so beautiful that, like I can live my life by design, not by default. So that's a very powerful sentence, and that can change your perspective about life and how to change your life and uh, achieve the pinnacle and get something great and achieve something great in life. You said something about the challenges in your life as well. So how those challenges have shaped you as a person and as you become a mentor. So do you have your own mentors as well? Is someone in your life who is mentoring you, who is guiding you, or is it just you that has shaped your life?
Oh, dude. I mean, I probably over the course of the last several years, I have invested well over six figures with coaches and mentors. I mean, I'm a certified coach, teacher, trainer with the John Maxwell team. That is one of a long laundry list of people that I have invested in who at every stage of my life have been critical in getting me to the next phase. Even the mentors and coaches who I worked with that maybe I didn't see the kind of fruit out of their program that I thought I would, those were all part of the journey, right? Because you can't, I mean, understanding the law of polarity, you can't know what's good for you until you know what's not good for you. So experiencing programs that maybe don't generate the kind of results you'd hoped for, most people will look at that and go, man, that was a waste of time and energy. Absolutely not. Like, what was the blessing and the gift from having been through that? Well, you now know some things that you can look forward to or look for the next time you decide to hire another coach or a mentor. You see, life is all about taking fails and recognizing that they're not an indictment on the personhood. You are never failing as an individual. You are experiencing fails. Once you separate yourself from the two, you can live outside of the fail and go, well, this was just a first attempt in learning. And as long as I capture the learning and I see it as a gift, I see it as a blessing, I show appreciation for it, it's going to cultivate gratitude in me. And gratitude would open up doors for even more opportunities to come into my life because I see the universe as always working for me, not against me.
No, that's an amazing thought and amazing attitude that universe is working for me and universe is not working against me. But we've seen 80 to 90% of the people that they are blaming on their society, on parents, on like on governments, economy, and everything, and they're not taking the responsibility to change their own life. You have done that, and you are helping people to come out of that mindset. Um, if someone is like struggling right now in their life, especially when like it's a very stressful time out right there because of the COVID-19, people are losing their jobs, businesses are going down, and you mentioned in the beginning of the like a conversation that it's the right time to do something. It's the right time when people will remember that in 2020 like those people were there and they have made something. So how one can do that? If someone is struggling right now, if someone has lost his job right now in COVID-19, what they can do, how they can look the future.
Yeah, the biggest investment that you'll ever make and the most profitable investment you'll ever make is investing in yourself, bar none. Because regardless of what you might pay for any program or anything that you wholeheartedly give yourself to, the return and the dividends from that are infinite. Because you're going to be reaping the wisdom, the knowledge, the expertise from that learning, from that piece of education, not for 6 months, not for 3 months, not for 3 years, but for the remainder of your life. So we go back to the BS we talked about, right? If the BS that's in your life right now isn't creating the results that you desire, perhaps it's time to adopt a new set of BS, right? So belief systems. So I would invite your listeners to check out my first phase of my 3 Steps to Success program. It's where we help you create a limitless mindset around what is entirely possible in your life for you to be, do, and have, regardless of what shows up in your life as obstacles. Today, we call it COVID-19. 1 year from now, it'll take on a completely different label. When you create a limitless mindset, it doesn't matter if it's COVID-19, it doesn't matter if it's a recession, it doesn't matter if it's a depression. You have a completely different perspective on the opportunities that are going to flow from that obstacle or adversity that you're faced with. And so the first phase of that 3 Steps to Success program is helping you break those invisible boundaries so you can create a limitless mindset. I have a long laundry list of bonuses that come with the program that I offer. We take you through 10 very specific invisible boundaries that are holding you back from releasing your full potential. And you can access that course along with a long laundry list of bonuses that are going to help shape your future for the better at this website. It's bit.ly. And that's, if you've ever used bit.ly, you just type bit.ly and then / Ike, which is my first name. The name of the program, BIB, for Breaking Invisible Boundaries, and then the letter P for program. So bit.ly, bit.ly / Ike, BIB, P as in Paul, to get access to that program. And that's going to be a resource that will, like I said, just deposit immense amounts of wisdom into you to prepare you for the future that you truly, truly deserve.
Great. Thank you so much. It will be a great help to the listeners and people who are listening right now and watching us right now to change and learn something and work on something, especially in these times, to make sure that they come out of these tough times as a warrior, as a successful person rather than a victim person. Ike, we've learned a lot about your life. We've learned about your entrepreneur journey and all that. You're also a coach in terms of public speaking. Any good tips that you want to share with us for public speaking?
Yeah, don't envision the audience as being naked. That's a very old tip that's been out there for people who have apprehensions with public speaking. Listen, public speaking is something that you've been doing since you were a little child, right? If you've ever been around kids, kids are not gun shy of expressing at that moment what they feel like is their purpose in life, to get a bottle in their mouth, to get some sleep, to go play, whatever it is that they feel like they need to do. So public speaking, as much as it's been touted as something that people fear more than death, I take the exact opposite approach. It's something that we've been built to do. We've been designed to do. It's within our blood. The issue is we haven't learned what it is that we're supposed to be speaking about. Again, it goes back to the whole reason why I work with purpose-driven entrepreneurs. Because once you take the time to be very introspective, to figure out exactly why you're still taking up space on Earth, and you realize what the owner's manual says as to why Adnan is still on Earth, what contribution he's supposed to be making, to whom he's supposed to be making that contribution to, and the level of transformation that he will bring by simply being authentically who I created him to be. Once that becomes evident in your life, you're looking for every opportunity you can to speak, because you want to get that mission out there. As a matter of fact, you feel like it's a disservice to humanity if you're not on a stage, if you're not on a platform, if you're not seizing every opportunity you have to give voice to your unique value proposition, which is rooted in your purpose and why you exist, in order to bring the transformation into the lives of those that only you can touch. And so that's all public speaking is really all about. Now, there's some mechanics and things you need to learn, but bar none, having clarity about your purpose and giving voice to that with passion is probably the richest skill set that is necessary, and it's already in you. And you just need the awareness to know what that is.
Wait, Ike, you're a mindset coach. You've written a book on money as well. Most of the people in their life, they are struggling to put food on their table. They are just, spending a life from 9 to 6, running from, from one pay cycle to another pay cycle. They are under the debt, paying bills and credit cards and home finances and all that. So what's the formula to be a financially independent? How they can come out of that financial burden and think something bigger than money? Being, like financially, you're stable. You know that, like your big bills are being paid and your debts are being paid, and you are like a free bird now. So any formula to that? Any help?
Yeah, I mean, I cover that and so much more in my book, Winning the Money Game. It's available on Amazon, so I'd recommend your readers just hop over to Amazon and grab that book. In life, you're going to make one of two decisions. Either you're going to make a commitment to always be a customer of the bank, or you're going to make a commitment to be more like the bank. And there's a huge difference between the two. We talk a lot about slavery and some of the injustices that we see in our society today, and those are all relevant and real. But the biggest example of slavery that has existed is the slavery that comes from people being unfinancially intelligent. The lack of financial literacy has caused more people to be enslaved to money and to debt than anything else people of a Caucasian descent have done to African Americans or any other race for that matter. And so if you want to break the boundaries that are holding you back from being able to experience money in abundance and ultimately life in abundance, up your financial literacy game. Make it a value decision that for me and my house and my children and everybody who's in here, that we will be some of the most financially intelligent people on the face of this earth. I've always said, if you want to keep a group of people ignorant, put it in a book, because nobody wants to read. That's my advice.
Right. Thank you so much, Ike, for your time today. Today, our guest was Ike Ikokwu. He joined us all the way from United States, Georgia. He is a certified CPA mentor, coach, public speaker, executive coach, leadership development, best-selling author. So before we sign off, Ike, any final message that you want to share with our audience today?
I just want to encourage your audience to recognize that in life, you're either going to play small or you're going to play big. It's going to take considerably the same amount of effort to play small as it will to take big. The results are remarkably different. So if you're going to exercise energy and effort in anything, go big. Go big. The world is your oyster. There's so much that you could be, do, and have. But again, make sure you've got the right BS, the right belief system that is leading you down the path to infinite opportunities that await you.
Thank you so much, Ike, for your time. Really appreciate your time. And it was a great learning session for me personally. And I believe it will be a great learning session for our audience today as well. We've learned about how to change the mindset. We've learned about the belief systems. We learned about how to manage your money. We learned about how to overcome the difficulties, even though life puts you, you went through all the failures, but you come out as a survivor, not as a survivor, but as a winner, as a warrior. And that's a live example with us today in form of Ike. He started his life from scratch in the United States. Now he is, he has a tremendous life as a successful entrepreneur. So thank you so much, Ike, for your time today. We hope to catch you soon. With this, we sign off. So audience, please take care of yourself, stay blessed, and take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adnan. It's been a pleasure being here.
Thank you.